Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new edition of Tea Technique Editorial Conversations. We're happy to be here doing this month's AMA. I'm Jason Cohen, author of An Introduction to the Art and Science of Chinese Tea Ceremony. I almost gave my professional introduction, Analytical Flavor Systems. Author of Introduction to Art and Science of Chinese Tea Ceremony. Joining me here today is Patrick Penny.
Hey, hey.
And Ryan On.
Hello.
Both from the editorial team.
Yeah, go editorial team. Where's Zongjun at?
I know our favorite contributor, Zongjun, based out of Shanghai. This would be 5 a.m. for him, 4 a.m.
Yeah, he's not awake still.
Not yet awake. Well, we will jump right in with the first question. I am still unfortunately waiting for water to boil, so I am not yet drinking tea. But if this water boils in a reasonable amount of time, I am going to drink a loose leaf, very light pu'er borderline mao cha that I greatly enjoy and is relatively safe to drink at 5 p.m. on a Friday night, where I expect to be up for a little longer. Pat, what are you drinking?
Yeah, right now I'm drinking an 03 Hong Kong Henry Serious Prescription. Just drinking it in a little shibori dashi that I just picked up at a reputable antiques dealer. So I've been having fun cleaning out this shibori dashi and getting ready for use. The interior is glazed, so I think I'll be able to use it with basically any tea. So I'm just kind of starting to do a little bit of test runs. But it's cold, rainy, and just generally crappy weather over here in the PNW. So this is the kind of tea I need right now. Ryan, what are you drinking?
I just came back from South Africa and I'm pretty jet lagged. So I needed an energy boost. So I'm drinking a red tea, a wild red tea. So it's like has that really bitter, energizing profile.
Do you guys drink a lot of Hong Cha?
When I am about to start my third tea of the day, because I'm an average 3 tea drinker and I don't know what to reach for and I'm not really paying attention, I reach for whatever random Hong Cha I have laying around.
Yeah, I only drink Hong Cha when I'm indecisive.
I feel like I have like maybe 4 or 5 Hong Chas floating around my closet tops, and I like almost never reach for them. I think Sam, my wife, just doesn't care for them. So it's like, when it comes to like communal brewing, she's never going to drink it. So I would only drink it by myself. So it doesn't come out that much.
It's not the first thing I reach for. But you did bring up the weather in the Pacific Northwest. The weather over here in New York is starting to change. I don't know if anyone could hear it, but if you hear any howling in the background, do not own a puppy. That is the wind against my building.
We know you do own a werewolf, though, so you can't get that one by us.
Brother, it's my brother. Sad story. Got bitten as a child.
Yeah, it's for another AMA. No one asked.
But that leads me to a question that's not on our list of questions that we pre-received or that anyone put into the chat. We do have a few live listeners here with us.
Thank you. First, thank you to the live listeners. Thank you to everyone that will listen eventually.
My first question is, do you have seasonal habits in your tea drinking? And I will say that as someone who really doesn't. I just drink a lot of what I'm interested in all the time. But with the weather getting colder and I'm in the leg brace, I think I mentioned last time I had knee surgery, so I can't move around that much. So I went up to my roof in order to get some outside time, fresh air, and it was getting colder. So I was wearing a jacket for the first time in the season. And I decided to brew a thermos of show pu'er. Actually, Ryan mentioned this to me like a month or two ago. Like, I was excited for the weather getting cold to brew like a thermos of really specific show pu'er that has this lighter, creamier flavor without like the mulchy flavor, and it can handle a thermos brew. And it was actually like incredibly pleasant. And I thought to myself, you know what, I should probably do like more seasonality in my tea brewing. And so I saw you both nodding, so I'm guessing you are more seasonal than I am.
I live for the seasons, man. I'm all about seasonal drinking. And I think I've talked about this in some podcasts, but like you'll never see me touch show in the summer. I don't really drink greens in the winter. I don't know, indoors here, like, I do have central heat, but I think I keep it at like 55. So it's generally cold where I'm living in the winter, and I need something to warm me up. And, last summer was crazy here in Seattle. So I couldn't imagine touching anything that was like stronger than a very green oolong. So I really have to follow the seasons. Like I see some people on Insta that can just do roasted oolongs. They can do show any time of year. And sometimes I'm jealous, but I can't do it. It's not in me. I have to follow the season. Ryan, what about you?
I follow the seasons to some extent. Less with show pour actually, but for roasted tea, I feel like right now is the perfect time of year, at least in the northern hemisphere.
It's what we tea drinkers live for. I feel like, the seasonality, everything is so nice about it. I mean, when the fresh teas roll out, I feel like there's nothing more exciting than that first, flush of green tea arriving at your door, hopefully in April, but sometimes different.
I should restate, because now that I'm thinking about it, I guess I really do drink green tea seasonally, because I buy, whatever I'm going to drink for the year in Qingming, and then wait for whenever China Post or whatever gets it to me, and then drink my green tea for the year. So that's almost seasonal. It's seasonal plus China Post. Moving on. Question that was typed in from one of our listeners. What tea habit do you admire in your colleagues? Which of their habits bother you?
Ooh, is this going to be like a Festivus from Seinfeld? Are we going to air our grievances about each other's tea brewing habits?
The airing of grievances. I can go first and talk about Ryan.
I got a lot of problems with you people, and you're going to hear about it.
All right, Jason, you go first.
Okay, I go first. What tea habit do I admire in my colleagues? So I do a lot of lao ren cha, particularly when I'm sitting at my desk and working during the day. So one of the things I admire about Ryan is that he is always brewing out of gaiwan, like consistently, and so he's always doing proper gongfu even throughout heavy meetings in the workday and stuff. So I think that that's relatively impressive. What bothers me? I think that Ryan forgot how to use yixings. Does not use yixings. No. I think that's an underinvestment in his collection. That's why we always drink tea at my place.
Ryan, you got called out, man. I think you got to go next.
Yeah, Jason, I think you do too much lao ren cha. And the cup that you drink out of is quite consistently as a nice way of putting it would be a patina.
My cup is perfect.
Yeah, it really does cake up really fast. And actually, when you look at that cup up close, it looks pretty disgusting.
Do we have to shame him for his teaware cleaning habits right now? Is this an intervention?
It is an intervention. Yeah,
I use the magic sponge.
Jason, your friends and family
you actually might
here.
not want to use the magic sponge because it's an abrasive. You should only use it for modern porcelain because you could be creating a bunch of micro scratches and.
Yeah, I checked. It's not.
Huh?
I checked.
You checked? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like you can't see them.
No, I used a magnifying glass and test and stuff on the bottom.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I've been. I mean, it's an important cup. Very careful.
No.
You did have questions from the last AMA about that cup. People are really interested in that cup. So, you'll just have to let them know when you start the Shipwreck Teaware Club, because I think a lot of people are interested. Ryan, did you share something that you like about either Jason or something you admire about Jason?
No, Ryan doesn't admire anything.
Jason goes to a lot of effort to collect teapots and to use them well, which is something that I admire. It really does add a whole new level and dimension to the experience of drinking tea, and is something that I wish I did more of.
All right, I'll jump in here. I'll start with admire. So it's kind of in the same vein. I don't mean to kind of be using Ryan's answer as a scapegoat, but specifically, I think I do admire how much thought goes into your chashis. So you often bring out very specific wares for a very specific reason. You're thinking about the tea, the interaction of the teaware, whether it's the teapot with the cups. But I think you're usually tying it to something beyond just the tea experience in that moment. So it usually either ties back to an experience we've had together, whether it was a teacup that was shown to us by someone that you got a similar piece that you're showcasing again to me, or whether it ties back to a specific experience we've had. You do a very good job of thoughtfully curating your chashis every time. I think when you do bring out, a chashi, and you do bring out teacups and a teapot, and you're not drinking Lauren cha, a lot of thought goes into what you do. I would say something that bothers me is how damn slow you are at brewing tea. We had tea in person for the first time in a long time 4 months ago. And oh my God, I think we were drinking green tea, and it was the day after Barolo night, right? So I was hungover and very tired. I don't know about you guys, but I was so tired and I really needed tea in my body. And Ryan, I don't think you had even gotten over here yet. I think you were still working. But Jason and I start drinking Longjing. He's brewing it in a beautiful Julunju teapot, and the water comes to a boil. It's a Tetsubin. It takes time. I get it. But by the time the water was fully at a boil and we were brewing, I think he brewed that tea maybe twice in like 30 minutes. And I was just sitting there like, I need more tea in my life, man. What are you doing? And Jason was just loving life, chatting. And I'm there I'm thirsty. I'm ready to drink tea. I'm here to drink tea. And this man is just keeping me thirsty. So that's definitely something that bothers me. And then you guys saw me brew, right? I'm a speed brewer. So I sit there. I don't let that teapot or Gaiwan lose a single degree of heat.
Pat's all about the power hour. The reason I don't brew so quickly is because I actually don't drink very hot things. I'm very careful on the palate. Like I let things cool down. Drives Ryan crazy when we go to dinner, and I'll just sit there and wait for something to cool down.
Yes.
That would annoy me so much too.
Kind words, Pat. I would say something I admire about your tea brewing is a very good reference selection, both on things that we've seen and done, like really good memory on tying back flavors and flavor experiences back to where we were doing, or where we had a similar example. Gonna throw this back at you. I think probably the thing that bothers me is drinking tea too hot. Like you can't taste it if it's that hot. It's going to burn you.
Perfect tasting temperature. That what is it? 37 degrees Celsius human body temperature. I can't wait for my tea to get that cool, man.
That might be a little cold.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the cups, depends on the wares that you were brewing in, but generally, after I've poured the tea, I would say I'm starting to drink the tea within 30 seconds of pouring. I think if the tea has been sitting in the cup for more than 2 minutes, like I'm probably just not at the tea table anymore. Like I've gotten up, I've moved. I think Jason is getting his tea ready. So in the meantime, Brian, did you have anything nice to say about me, man?
I was just thinking last time I had tea with you. It's been a couple of years since
we haven't brewed together a lot. That's the thing is,
Yeah.
you and I were at the Institute overlapping for a year, right?
1 year.
Yeah. So I think
heat management. I think you're like that is one thing that I remember, and one thing that I remember learning from you was heat management and the cadence, which is something that
I underperform at because I drink everything cool.
yeah.
it's okay if you don't have anything that bothers you about me, because I don't have anything that bothers me about you, Ryan. We're both in this boat together, where we just have this like idiosyncratic author whose book we're editing that likes to just drive us a little crazy. So if there's anything that bothers us, it's usually the same thing about the same person.
It's deserved. I'm sure I freely admit to it. Okay, next question. Ryan, this one is targeted at you, I think. What's your next major teaware purchase? Everyone already knows mine is shipwreck wear. So
Do you really buy anything else?
this is Brian, you better say Yixing.
Me? No, not Yixing. Um,
I just complained that you have no Yixing.
yeah, but I don't like to use them. I don't know.
This might be a good time for a plug, though. Jason, didn't you commission some Yixings that
Oh yeah,
Ryan, I believe you're purchasing, and so am I?
that's
I
true.
did, in fact, commission some Yixings. That might be a hint at the topic of the next book coming after On Theory, Meta Theory, and Culture. May or may not be about Yixing clay and its application in Chinese tea ceremony. We haven't exactly decided how it'll work yet, but certain subscribers may or may not have the ability to purchase a commissioned Yixing teapot.
Yeah, it's based off of a shape that we all really loved from an antique teapot that we just had not seen around available at all. So I'm really excited to get my hands on that. And I guess Ryan must be too, but that's not what he's thinking about for his next purchase. So Ryan, what are you buying next, man?
I don't know. That's a good question. Well, actually, I broke a mini Gaiwan on the road. It was quite pathetic. I knocked it, and a little chip came out of it, and I even used it in the hotel room in Turkey, and with a giant chip on it. So I just bought a new single serve Gaiwan um, as a replacement. But in terms of major purchase, I don't know. It's I'm quite content with my teaware actually. I
That's
need a
a
cooler cabinet. I'm out of space.
I think that's the eternal problem is being out of space. But that's a very unusual answer, I feel like, for a tea head is I'm content with everything I have. I don't need to buy more.
I'm quite happy with my single serve Gaiwan. It's you know,
Good. Ryan's in a good spot. He spends all of his money on tea, not teaware.
That is a very good place to be. That's where I tried to be this year, and I did a decent job. I think, other than the money I forked over to Jason for Yixing, I don't think I bought much other teaware as I stare at the teaware that I just purchased yesterday. But beyond that, I don't think I spent too much on teaware this year. I know my next purchase for sure is going to be a Tetsubin. I do not own a Tetsubin. I've been using an electric kettle for the past 5 years. The first 4 or 5 years of my tea learning experience was all with Tetsubin. I feel very blessed for that. And my God, I miss using them. So I've like every single year, I kind of am just like, I'm getting a Tetsubin this year. And I find a way to look at my balance sheet and convince myself that I should just wait for next year. But this year is the year it's happening. So I was consulting Ryan and Jason by text this past week. They both have Tetsubin from different makers. I'm trying to figure out which one I want, but I think Jason's got me convinced to go with Kunzan because we used a lot of Kunzan kettles at the Tea Institute. So that is definitely my purchase for this year. I'm shooting to get it for my birthday.
And just a reminder, we do take questions from the live audience, so that can go into the chat. Pat, and did any questions come in on Insta or on any other channels? If not, I can.
Yeah, but you didn't answer this question. I mean, we know you're going to get shipwreckware, but are you thinking about something particular?
Am I thinking about something particular? Well, actually, to everyone's delight, shipwreckware, buy whatever comes up, whatever's available, since you don't really get like a choice. For beyond shipwreckware, I've actually been looking into the mid-Qing enamels, the ones influenced by Giuseppe, particularly some of the canary yellow enamels, and the green and red enamels, of course. So family vert, family rosé. I think that those are underappreciated and under considered. I also think that some of the monochromal glazes from the same contemporary time period are pretty amazing teaware pieces. So looking for doesn't have to certainly be imperial stamp, but it certainly has to be an imperial kiln. So like imperial yellow or mustard yellow on it. I've not had a ton of experience in actually using them for tea, and a lot of the ones that look like teacups would have actually been used for alcohol. So trying to find ones that are certainly tea linked were made or used for tea in the Qing dynasty is a contemporary focus. and either the monochromals or the families.
Now that that you're talking about it, we had tea together, in May, June, whenever it was, and you brought out, I think, 2 cups that were monochromal. I think there was a slightly red glaze, if I'm remembering correctly, and you asked me to guess what they were. I don't think you ever told me what they were, but now I'm thinking about them, and not just because I'm reading the Chinese ceramics book alongside you, but were they like Batavia export wear? Were they bound for Indonesia? You
No,
didn't tell
no.
me anything about it, so I'm just making
Uh,
guesses now.
those were the one that you're thinking of is red called Jinghong sacrificial red. So that was created as a monochromal copper glaze. It's very heat sensitive. Copper will go gray or green depending on temperature fluctuations in the kiln. So the kiln had to be held at a perfect temperature within a 50 degree Celsius range. And it was a rediscovery. It was actually a replication of what they were originally making in the Ming. The original replication became called peach blossom glaze or oxblood red glaze. The story, which is definitely not true, is that during the rediscovery process in the imperial kilns in the Qianlong era, or the oh no, sorry, late Kangxi, but it became popular in the Qianlong era, is that during this recreation process, they were able to get the peach blood glaze and some of the ox blood glaze. But in their attempts to get into refine it, one of the kilns messed up or something. And so one of the young girls who worked at the family kilns, for everyone who would have been punished for messing up the glaze, sacrificed herself by throwing herself into the kiln, and the glaze was formed of her blood. Definitely not true.
Metal as hell, though.
Metal as hell. Blood does not turn red in the kiln, in case everyone's wondering. And so you cannot glaze your wares with your own blood. But it's called sacrificial red, and it is in theory officially only available to the imperial palace. So that was the monochromal red.
The mystery is revealed. So I think we all know that if there's like a tea technique of clue, it's not going to be, Jason with the kiln, murdered whoever by pushing them in, and you only found out because of the glaze on the cup.
Right.
Yeah, it would be Ryan. Yeah.
Ryan's blood.
I would use that cup, Ryan.
Oh, good.
So we did get a question from the Instagram, and it is a little bit less focused on tea, which means that, I'm happy, but I don't think Ryan's going to be happy. Ryan doesn't do anything that doesn't involve tea or editing tea technique or working. So sorry, Ryan. But we just got asked, favorite bands or musicians. And I'm not going to make Ryan kick off because I don't know if he listens to music, but Jason, do you want to kick off?
Oh, yeah, I guess. So I have really kind of strange music tastes. Grew up listening to predominantly classic rock, particularly the more esoteric classic rock like Jethro Tull, because who doesn't love a rock flute? And then got further and further into jam bands, despite the long hair. When living in Kunming for a while and reading Du Fu, I in fact do not smoke marijuana. But listen to Fish. Fish was for a long time my favorite band. Been to a bunch of Fish concerts. But then more recently got very into jazz and got very into Japanese jazz. So listening to like JAM, Just Another Mind, and stuff. And now recently, particularly when writing and reading, I've been listening to a ton of classical. So I've like been turning on Vivaldi or Brahms or Schoenberg. Yeah, there's just really no rhyme or reason to this, because then I'll go listen to Run the Jewels. Oh, I'm really into alternative social justice jazz rap. Just Run the Jewels and LP and Killer Mike, that too. And I know I can like rap the songs well. So that's the non-answer for favorite band. Can I say Brahms right now?
No, I think that was a perfect answer. I think maybe, subscribers only video content will have to be Jason, rapping out the lyrics to his favorite Run the Jewels song. I think that's probably going to be, subscribers only YouTube content.
Yeah, it's not appropriate, but yeah, I'm down.
I think it's good. People want to see you rap, right? What's better than talking philosophy over book, and then you just bring it right to lyrical philosophy. All right. Well, everyone's looking at me, so I think it's probably my answer next. But I will just add on to Jason's answer that you liking jam bands was the weirdest thing to me, because you tried to get me to go to a couple jam band concerts, and I do not like jam bands, right? So like I'm not a dead. I don't like Fish. I forget what you brought me to see. I think it was Sound Tribe.
Sometimes 79, yeah.
Yeah, you brought me to see Sound Tribe, and that was a long ass concert. It was such a long concert.
Every song was like 30 minutes.
I did not like it. I mean, like I enjoyed the experience of being there, but like I would never repeat it ever again. The songs are so long, and I like long songs too. I'm a metalhead, so I like my even going back to classic rock, right? I like my Led Zeppelin 8 to 16-minute songs. I'll listen to a Moby Dick drum solo for 10 to 15 minutes, but those songs were so long, Jason. So jam bands are a big no-no for me. So yeah, I do also listen to a little bit of everything, slightly eclectic with my taste as well. So Jason and I share, a fondness for Japanese jazz, like you mentioned, things like Soil and Pim Sessions, Pezmoku, right, Jabberloop. But I am a big metalhead, so I'll listen to things like Periphery, Veil of Maya, Born of Osiris. Those are probably kind of my classic Sumerian Records bands, but Periphery is probably the one that's stuck with me for a long time. I really love their music. I do listen to a lot of Japanese rock and pop. Lark NCL is one of my favorite bands of all time. I like a lot of beat heavy stuff like Nujabes, Marcus D, Funky DL, L Jones.
Other than that, Japanese hip hop, I listen to a lot of.
Oh yeah, no, it's really, really good stuff. I think anyone who like probably watched like Samurai Champloo as a kid, right? Any music that sounds like anything that came out of that, I love.
Where are you on Mac Miller?
I'm not a Mac Miller fan. No, never was.
I'm really into Mac Miller.
I think maybe I just never had the right introduction, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, Mac Miller feels like a very white version of Run the Jewels for me, which is fine because Run the Jewels is half white.
Well, you just send me a couple tracks that you like, and I'll give it a listen. But I think recently, what have I been listening to recently? I've been more into like just random independent artists. So there's an artist called Ando-san. He's like guitar focused that I really like. And there's a like pop singer called Andres that I really enjoy. So he just released a new album called Adventures of a DIY Astronaut that I've been probably just having on repeat recently. So I figured I'd be the one with the longest answer because music is a big part of my life. I'm a drummer. But Ryan, maybe you'll have the shortest one, so we'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, I have really nothing to add. I enjoy music. I enjoy most of the things Jason puts on.
He does not consistently enjoy Run the Jewels, but I've got him to the point where he doesn't dislike Run the Jewels.
No, I like some Run the Jewels. Not all of it's my favorite, but yeah.
You certainly did not like it when I first started playing it.
That's true. Jason has a way of slowly introducing you to things and to acquire preferences.
Yeah, it's like he's got an entire thesis on that.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah. Who knew?
All right. I think that's probably enough of an answer on that question. You want to take it back to maybe another tea-related question?
I do want to take it back to another tea-related question. What topic in tea are you studying right now? Brian, you can go first.
At the moment, nothing. I've been traveling for the last 3 weeks, but I had some really interesting experiences with Turkish tea. And something that I didn't know is that the CTC process tea has to sit and practically boil, or it's maintained at a really high temperature for an hour. And then it's diluted down, usually in a 1-to-1 ratio with hot water. But if it's not sitting there for an hour, consumers will say that it was undercooked or understeeped, which felt like a strangely long time to me for CTC. So actually, it's kind of an interesting question for you, Pat. Like, what is going on? Because clearly extraction has got to end after 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you're a chemist too, Ryan. So I think you probably know exactly what's going on there. But I would have to think that there's a degree of evaporation. I can't imagine that there's any more extraction happening beyond, 15 minutes of straight up boil. I don't think you're getting much more out of
Yeah.
CTCT, right? Surface area is super high. You're not really getting very far into, you don't have to travel far into the tea leaf. I would just think it's evaporation, right? Maybe some oxidation effects of the actual liquid itself, right? So maybe the longer it sits out, right, maybe you get some certain, let's say, ripe fruit flavors that are developing a little stronger from oxidation, secondary oxidation happening on the liquid. But I really can't imagine it's much more beyond evaporation.
Interesting. The other
Do you have any
interesting
other theories?
Well, yeah, I don't know, or some the evaporation and post-secondary oxidation.
Can't there be isomerization going on in a boil that long?
I don't know what compounds would be isomerizing. Certainly you could, but I just don't know what would be in there to do that. I'm sure you do have some binding, right? Like there's probably some theaflavins, theorubicins, et cetera, that are dimerizing with other polyphenol groups and
You
tannins.
could be
But
crashing some stuff out.
yeah, but I can't really imagine what would be so obvious that a consumer would taste it and go, "Oh, this was boiled for 30 minutes, like not an hour." I really can't imagine, but I don't have the cultural reference or context to know better.
Yeah. Actually, all of those things have a pretty interesting setup because we saw a home setup, which is a local person we were working with. We wanted to run tea on one of our panels. And all of the setups, both the professional ones that you'll find at like shops and cafes, as well as these home ones, the top pot is exposed to the bottom well of boiling water. So there's constantly sort of that condensation where the steam will condense on the bottom of the pot. So it maintains it at a kind of a constant temperature and keeps everything warm. So pretty interesting experience. It all tastes the same. We did high end, low end. We spent as much money on Turkish CTC tea that we could find, and also tested the lower end. And really, after an hour of boiling, it tasted the same.
Yeah, I think it all comes out in the wash, right? There's only so much difference you can have after you boil things for an hour. Like I'll tell you, I've drank my fair share of CTCT, and there's certainly a difference when you go from low price to high price. But as it shows up in consumer packaging, yeah, I don't know. There's probably not a massive difference after a lot of blending.
Ryan, you should have tried to gong fu some of the
Oh
low
God,
the high end,
No,
like side by side gong fu.
terrible idea.
there really was not much flavor there to begin with. It's actually a really difficult thing to do a sensory review on. It's like on some of my reviews, I think it was literally just black tea and some astringent.
Yeah, tastes like cardboard and black tea. Like some of those like Malawi or Argentinian CTCs, literally I've tasted dirt that tastes better. Some of them are so bad, especially at the really low end.
Although surprisingly, I didn't get a headache from anything. So whatever it was, there wasn't too much.
Clean label.
Yeah.
Yeah, not non-GMO, natural. Yeah, I'm sure all of those like $1 for like an ounce or 3 ounces or whatever of tea. I'm sure all of that is super clean.
Organic too.
It's got to be, right? It's mixed in with dirt. I'll go on what have I been focusing on. I think that the biggest thing I've been focusing on is probably just approaching the tea table with more like intention, more thought. So I think I did go through the phase over the summer where it was hot as hell and I just really could not like sit down and just have a gongfu session. Particularly like June and July here were really brutal. And we don't have AC. So like I would kind of just sit down, throw some green tea into like a kyusu or throw some green tea into like a large teapot and just like, enjoy some tea while trying not to sweat too much. So kind of once the cooler weather came along, I've just been trying to really focus on, sitting down, getting everything ready, starting the boil and giving myself a couple minutes to really get in the zone and focus on the tea, which, isn't something I always do, right? We all know that it does make a big difference, right? If you really sit there and be present with the tea and take some time to focus on it and not just kind of like, hit your water, grab your wares, all that kind of stuff. But I've just been trying to be intentional about that for the past 2 months, I'd say. And secondary to that, or I would say taking that skill and applying it, I've been focusing a little bit on packing for yancha. So I have a couple yancha samples that were left over from last year, as well as a very large supply of a few yancha like suixian. So I've been just working on different packing experiments, different crush. So forming a chadan, or either crushing before and adding and then doing layers, or doing the chadan by going right through the middle with my finger. So I've been just doing some side-by-side comparisons and trying to find what worked best for me and the specific teas that I'm brewing in my teaware. So that's what I've been focusing on. Jason?
Writing a note. Can't let you
Outshot on you.
Yeah, outshot on me. Like so Chojo Gong Fu is what I focused on like all beginning of the year, like first like November, December of last year into like March, April of this year. I was doing like Chojo. I went from like never doing Chojo to doing Chojo like 2 or 3 times a week. And sometimes multiple sessions on like weekends. Like that just became like a major focus. Anyway, it like fell off a little bit recently. Been tasting some other stuff. But what have I been studying recently? So beyond the standard consistent reading and everything, recently I've been doing a lot of work on Yixing and Yixing clay. Tied a little bit to purchasing some Yixing teapots and some writing interests that I have. I think that a lot of the information out there on Yixing is very confusing, contradictory. A lot of the stuff that is overly focused upon is either misleading or misunderstood. What clay is what certain clays do and interact. I think is all very little understood. And there's pretty good information on this in Chinese. So doing some work with Zongjun and translations, doing some work on updated and more recent archaeological evidence and excavations, and doing some work on just general understanding of material sciences and structures. So I think that there's a lot of interesting information that we could bring eventually to talk about what is a good Yixing, why are Yixings good, how do you use Yixings, and dispel some of the myths and reinforce the good things that people are doing, and give new avenue for experiments and interactions.
Well, Ryan won't read it because Ryan doesn't use Yixing and he doesn't read tea books. So good thing he's going to edit it.
The ultimate forcing function. Actually, as I've been sitting here, I've been thinking that maybe my next purchase, I really would like a tiny Yixing. That would be really nice, like a 50 mil or 60 mil.
I'd say, as someone who owns a 40 mil Yixing, shoot for 60. 40 is real small. 50 is still pretty small. 60 feels very functional. I think the smaller you go, the harder it gets to determine the variables that you put in, how big their output is. So I feel like 60 is a good level to still really understand what it is you're testing and how that impact came out through your pot. It's my 2 cents. Jason also owns like a 50 mil Yixing though, so maybe he has a different thought. But that Yixing is a very different level from mine.
It's pretty hard to use, but that's what I was practicing chadan and tea crush or chojo.
Wow, that teapot was certainly made with that in mind, considering its age and origin. You're on mute, Jason.
There we go. Sorry. Any questions that you want to pull from the list, or do you want me to keep reading?
Yeah, I got one that I'll throw in here. So a favorite memory related to tea. I think we probably all have a lot of good ones here.
We've answered this question before.
Have we?
I don't know. Maybe we didn't give a different. Hopefully, we give a different answer this time. A different memory.
You know, it wasn't in our last AMA. I listened through it just to make sure we don't repeat anything.
Oh, okay. Well, then tell me your favorite memory. It has to include me.
Of course, it includes you. What other team memories do I have? Um, I'm trying to think through because I'm trying to think of which ones are appropriate or inappropriate to tell on the podcast. Because we definitely have a lot of inappropriate favorite team memories together. Um, Most of them involve picking tea in Korea and needing to find baths. But I'll say my favorite tea memory, has got to be actually, yeah, picking tea together and processing tea together with Mr. Hong in Korea. I think just being in the fields. So he's got some fields that he planted, but he's also got some abandoned tea fields that he started to harvest from over the past, I don't know, maybe decade, prior to us picking with him. It was amazing just being in those fields, seeing kind of the abandoned tea and how it starts to integrate with the environment. Being able to pick a leaf and taste it fresh, and then taste things as we go through the processing steps. But just having my hands on with all the tea leaves really solidified understanding for me. And just being together, the people who were all there, all of it, just the meals we had, the fun. There's so much that goes into it that's always going to be a very special memory. Jason, all right?
Ryan, you go because I'm pulling up the photo.
Well, I don't know if I'm not totally prepared for this question.
Did we prepare for any of the questions?
No.
Okay, you wait. I'll share.
Okay.
So Pat and I went on a motorcycle trip through Taiwan to go visit some tea fields, which was difficult for a number of reasons. But one reason was because there was a typhoon coming. And so we said, okay, fine, we'll wait out the typhoon. And then we continued on our trip up to the tea fields, and people are like, there's a typhoon coming. And we're like, what are you talking about? The typhoon just hit. And they're like, no, two typhoon, new typhoon coming. And so then we tried to outrun the typhoon to get back to Taipei. And on the way, we decided to stop in the headwinds of the approaching hurricane for quick extreme chashi, and laid out this chashi, which I hope you can all see. Some of you listening on podcast won't be able to see, but it's my standard travel set. But sitting on a rocky shoal on the outskirts of Taiwan, on the east coast of Taiwan, as the headwinds of this rain band's approaching, and Pat and I are soaked to the bone, and wind is blowing, and the waves are crashing up, and we're sitting there drinking our roasted Gaoshen oolong, and then we're brewing in my jet boil, and the waves keep coming, and things are trying to blow away. So we're like putting rocks on the chashi so it doesn't blow away, and then there I am, totally soaked. And then Pat actually goes and touches the Pacific for the first time
in my life. It was amazing.
And that is certainly one of my favorite memories on tea stuff, is being on the motorcycle for hours, nearly running out of gasoline, and turning the engine off and coasting downhill so that we can make it onto the next uphill.
It's a strong contender for me as well. There was a lot of very memorable moments there. But just specifically talking to how we were when we started that chashi, man, we were both sitting on a motorcycle at that point. That was day 2 of our trip, right? Because we went out. We finally understood eventually that there was another typhoon coming, that the previous one didn't just end. There's another one. So we bunkered down overnight in some super random village that basically just had a gas station and a couple shops. And I don't even know if what we stayed at was truly a hotel, but
it was not.
Yeah, we stayed somewhere. We paid someone to stay somewhere. And we did get to shower, which was great because we were at that point also very wet. But we probably motorcycle rode like 12 hours that day, 13 hours. And so then
I think it was day 3. I think there were 3 days.
Well, okay, maybe my memory's getting pretty blurry based on the amount of blood that was getting to my brain, because my God, my ass hurt so much from sitting on that motorcycle. And that's a big part of what I remember from that chashi is like, I was so happy to stand for a while because my ass just hurt so much from sitting on the motorcycle for so long. And just, yeah, so wet. Like even when we got back to where we were staying in Taipei and like I showered and dried off, I still felt like I was soaked for a very long time. I don't know how neither of us got sick, but my God, like, yeah, just that tea was such a reprieve from the whole like ride, which was beautiful in its own right. But like at some point it became pretty difficult. So the tea definitely felt like it.
It was beautiful, but it was pretty difficult from the beginning. There were poisonous caterpillar centipedes hanging down from like threads, and we had to wear our full face mask, motorcycle helmets, plus glasses, plus keep our mouths closed so that we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, we almost got hit by trucks coming around the like tiniest mountain passes. We ran out of gas. We got chased by rabid dogs. A typhoon. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things in there where it's like, maybe we didn't really prepare for that trip, but it was a fun time in retrospect.
It worked out. It was fine. We got to see some tea fields or something.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't see everything we went for. I think we were going to Tarako Gorge, right? That was the
eventual goal. Yeah.
The eventual goal.
We went through, what was it? Alishan?
Yeah. We were in Nantou for a bit. I feel like we got that far down. And then, we never made it to Tarako because we were like, well, here's a typhoon.
Typhoon coming.
That's pretty far.
We drove really far.
It was like, we got really far.
It was all day Jason, you are right. It was 2 days of driving south, basically all day.
And then we took the coastal highway back, which was a lot faster.
I'm not sure if we were supposed to be on it actually, but yes, we didn't get pulled over.
But there was a typhoon. There was no cops.
Yeah.
But then we did get pulled over in Beito, didn't we?
But they didn't really. I mean, I didn't speak to them. You spoke to them. I don't remember what happened.
Oh, I just pretended not to speak Chinese and just kept saying Taipei.
Well, neither of us got arrested or sent back to the States, so I think you figured it out.
They said, whose motorcycle is this? I was like, American. They're like, where did you get this motorcycle? This is in Chinese. I'm like, Taipei. And they're like, where are you going? Like, Taipei. So then I just kept repeating Taipei. And then like the junior cop looks at the senior cop, and the senior cop's like, really, you want to put up with this? They're not drunk. They're fine. Just like, let them go.
I mean, I don't know why we got pulled over in the first place. So
he smelled my breath for beer.
Oh, okay.
Because it was like 12:30 a.m.
when we came back in. Yeah.
So
that was a very long trip. I'll say that much. I think that probably aged me like a year or two. But touching the ocean was fun.
No, that made me young. That's the type of trips I live for.
Yeah, that's the type of trips I'm really happy to read your blog about like 10 years later and then go, oh my God, I did that? Holy shit.
My wife would kill me.
I don't know about that. She'd probably, wow, you guys are idiots. Which, not so wrong, but it was a good time.
Might be true. We have a couple of rapid fire questions. Oh, Ryan, did you share?
No, but I don't think I can follow that up. So I'll save one.
You have no favorite memories. Okay.
Not even of me, Ryan.
Rapid fire-ish questions. First one is tasting young sheng, up dose or down dose?
Depends on the sheng.
You know nothing about the sheng. It's a sample. Say it's a blind sample. You have limited amount of it.
Down dose.
You down dose.
Limited amount. I also down dose. If someone sent me like a 8-gram sample, I'm going to use my, mini Gaiwan, 60 milliliter Gaiwan, and I'm going to down dose. So I'll maybe do like 3 grams.
All right. Interesting. That's what I do. I down dose. All 3 of us are down dose. Wow. That was a surprise. Why doesn't Ryan have a bio on the site?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that one. Ryan doesn't want to be seen or heard. He is the man in the shadows, and he wants everyone to know as little about him as possible. lest they uncover him for the fake that he really is. That's what he's thinking. No, I'm joking. Ryan, why don't you have a bio?
I'm slow and indecisive. I'm not happy with any of the bios I've written.
But
You have a writer on your team.
Oh yeah, actually, the one that you wrote, Jason, is pretty good. Needs a little editing. But,
Should I read it? Should I read it?
I think
No,
you should
no,
read it.
it's
I
okay.
think it was
It's
perfect,
okay.
and I think read it. Please read it, Jason. Read it. I think it's perfect. I think it should just be posted. Honestly,
it's a little
Okay.
factually inaccurate, but
No, I think this is right. We got Ryan Mystery Man on. Ryan is a specter, a man of light presence lurking in the shadows of brightly lit Zoom calls. It's true. Frequently found in airports, Ryan uses tea as a time machine to combat the forces of jet lag. Born to a family of Austrian apple farmers, Ryan joined the Penn State tea cult and achieved the highest rank of cult leader before dropping out to focus on earning Delta Sky Miles. What are you at, Ryan? 350? 450? Ryan edits the Tea Technique books in between his varied and unique hobbies of drinking tea and editing the Tea Technique Editorial Conversations podcast, which are late, by the way. Ryan's favorite dessert is the standard Army issue cupcake served at overseas encampments. He's used tens of thousands of Delta points to visit these bases and procure the dessert, giving Ryan the honorific moniker of General Cupcake.
post it. I think Ryan, soon they're gonna let you convert your Delta points into Bitcoin at some point in the next couple of years. So you might have a lot of Bitcoin if you just convert all your Delta points.
there we go.
I think that that bio doesn't fully do Ryan justice, though. It doesn't quite tell everyone how amazing he is. It sells some of his good points, but I think there's more. There's more to Ryan than everyone knows.
That's
Not
what
ready for prime time yet.
That's what it means to be a specter.
That is true. I mean, we're talking about someone who was, CIA secret agent for a long time. He doesn't like to tell people about that. His time in the FBI, undercover units. Ryan's a seasoned, war hero. So he's a pretty amazing guy. You don't have to talk about or take any of the honors, Ryan. It's okay. We know you don't like to.
Biological weapons specialist.
Yeah, cha.
I think this one is to me. What are your writing and this is for all of us. Writing and editing habits. What's the best and worst part of the job? Maybe I'll go last on that one. You guys can talk about editing first.
We should let Ryan go because I think we basically just bullied him the whole last question. So let's let him talk for a little bit.
I usually edit in a panic right before we record and send back my feedback. Every once in a while, I'll do it in advance and I'll really sit on it for a few days and then reread it. And writing, I don't really do much writing for this book, just editing.
Best and worst part of the job?
Well, editing is also terrible. I really hate editing podcasts. It's really time consuming and it's just not my favorite activity. But I will do it.
Well, we all do truly appreciate your editing. Even when you're late, we're still amazed that you do it because, well, I don't want to do it. So I appreciate you, Ryan. So my editing habits are Jason sends out, the next week's chapter or section. I'm the first one to edit it, always. So I do try and do it basically right when he sends it. Recently, it's been a little difficult. Work's been busy, but I try and take a first pass, just read it. I don't try and edit it. I just try and read and understand the content, which, has its varying levels of difficulty. Sometimes I'm just like, what the hell was this chapter about? But usually I get it. And then the second time around, I'll do a fine editing. So I'll go through line by line, make sure grammatically correct, spelling errors, etc. I usually send a pass off to Jason. At which time, if Jason's received, enough edits, he does a little bit more editing, sends out a polished version, and then that gets another look over. Sometimes gets sent back for another polish, but usually I'd say we go through 2 or 3 rounds and we're done. So yeah, I mean, it probably takes way less time than actually writing the book takes. So maybe I spend an hour and a half a week with editing. I think I actually probably spend way more time trying to keep up on the Instagram, which I do a very bad job of anyway. But best and worst parts of editing. I'd say best part is I get to hang out with you guys, plus Songjun. So I get to see you guys every week. I feel like I'm learning something about tea. Jason, your approach to tea, your writing style, etc., definitely uncover some things that are not obvious to tea, even when you've been brewing for a long time. It's a very specific approach, and I think that I'm learning things that are not just tea related. So I'm still on the ride with you as far as discoveries of philosophy, philosophical angles, of information as it relates to the history of Buddhism, Taoism. I'm learning these things as Jason is writing them. So it's been fun to do some deep dives on, references and footnotes within your book and just learn more. So that's been something I really enjoyed. Worst part is having to be the foil to Ryan and just make fun of him on this because I really don't want to. I love him, but that's our character. That's the character that Jason's written for us. Ryan is the guy that gets made fun of, and I have to be the mean bully. So I can't break character. So that's the worst part.
Ryan, you don't like learning new things? You didn't say that was the best part of the job.
No, I hate it. It's just torture. I don't even know why I'm on this.
He's trying to earn those Sky Miles. That's what it is. You're getting paid in Sky Miles. I don't think Jason told you. He's paying me in money to edit this book, but he's just paying you in Sky Miles. He didn't tell you that, right?
Actually, I would echo Pat's comments. It's I've been able to learn quite a bit about history and Buddhism and philosophy in ways that I would not have. It's also giving them the space to breathe. It's one of the more interesting things about these weekly calls and discussions. And it's all focused around something that we all deeply care about, which is tea. Most of the reasons why I dislike editing the podcast because I'm not very familiar with software and I'm not very good at it, which is also kind of a nice skill to learn. So all in all, it is certainly an improvement in my learning and certainly a very enriching activity.
Well, I don't know if Jason has scared you yet with the number of podcasts we recorded while you were away. But the listeners can look forward to hearing Songjun's voice a little bit more because while Ryan was traveling for the past month, we recorded quite a bit. So sorry, Ryan.
Songjun can edit those podcasts. I'll delegate that.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
This is a hard question. So my writing process is so I write the whole book first, and the book just goes through like iteration after iteration after iteration. I start with just notes, like 40, 50, 60 pages of direct notes plus different files for references and citations, and then old handwritten notes from 2011, 2012, 2013, the Institute stuff. And then reference and citation material. So a big library of books over here that will change depending on what I'm writing about. And then translations, and then I don't believe anyone's translations. So then Songjun and I go through the translations, and then Songjun's like, this seems janky, or like, this is a complicated translation. So then we'll go ask Songjun's dad, who's a professor of classical Chinese art and stuff at Academy of the Fine Arts in Guangzhou. So we'll go ask him what he makes of it, and if he has any citations or references. And this can go on for a long time. Like a single book probably takes 6 months to a year, and that was really on the fast side because of quarantine and pandemic and COVID and stuff, and then work was light for a little while. So that happens. The book goes through these changes and iterations, and then it gets into like an outline form, and start writing the individual sections, and I'm finding citations and footnotes and stuff. In the most recent book, the chapters that are really foundationally my theory get written in a mad flurry. Sit down has to be first thing in the morning if I'm going to write before I do anything. So it's just me, tea, Fred, like literally roll out of bed and within 30 seconds at the computer writing, or it's not going to happen that day. those are the chapters that are predominantly me that I already either have all the citations for. So otherwise, it's a research day, and I get no original writing done, and it's just, you know, footnote, citation, idea, footnote, citation, idea, building up the notes and contents and stuff. And those chapters can be a lot harder. So then the entire book gets written. I get into a state that I say, I think that this is done. And then we go chapter by chapter with Pat and Ryan. And sometimes some chapters will go through, you know, after the whole book's done and I start going chapter by chapter with Pat and Ryan, then before I reread the chapter before I send it to them. And some chapters will just go through either a, you know, minor revision or major revision or just a full rewrite, particularly if we're further along in the book. So I would say the worst part is that what's true of Chinese tea is true of writing about Chinese tea. You cannot trust your sources, you cannot trust anything. So, you know, being able to validate things stuff is always a challenge. The best thing about it is like following a line of thought or a path, right, or an idea, finding the historical evidence, and you know, finding the conclusion. That's amazing. And then, you know, my favorite part is then the editorial conversations. I reveal the chapter to Pat and Ryan, and then we discuss the chapter, and those things are great. That is clearly the single best part of it. That's been true for this book, which is very, you know, philosophical in nature. It'll be interesting to see like what happens in the next book. If the next book is something like I Ching, is much more applied, how we're gonna run some of these, how we're gonna do it. But you know, we also do experiments together and share experimental notes and stuff. So anyway, that's clearly the best part, is getting, you know, proposing this new knowledge and then seeing the interpretation, the application, the debate, the questions from two of the most experienced tea people that I frequently interact with, Pat and Ryan, and Zongjun. Having Zongjun on the podcast is always great because he brings in a whole area of Chinese knowledge.
I love that the listeners are getting to hear the wind rustle through the pines as your Tetsuba just boils away as well, Jason, during your answer.
Yes, that is the sound of writing. It's what it sounds like in my studio.
Slow click clack of, I'm guessing, bamboo charcoal bouncing around in your Tetsubin.
Organic bamboo charcoal.
It's a very classic noise. I can't wait to create that in my house. That's, as we said, that next big tea purchase. I'm ready for it. Was there any more rapid fire questions?
I think that is probably the right question to end on. I don't know if you guys had.
Yeah, no, we're at an hour. I think that's probably a good place to end. We'll let our captive live audience go home. Thank you guys for joining us. How do we want to close out, guys?
Well, no, thank you all for coming. We're happy to post this. We're going to be posting the video on YouTube and then the audio on Spotify and other fine places where this podcast can be found, everywhere except Apple Music.
Apple Music. One day.
One day.
We'll get there one day. All right. Well, thank you.